Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, normally recorded in our studio at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre, currently recorded from our volunteers' homes. To keep in touch with us, use our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, which are all at Q and Review. That's CUEANDREVIEW. Or get in touch via information@qandreview.com. That's information@CUEANDREVIEW.com. Please like and share our podcast and give us any constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, June 14. Chris Boyd slams Steve Clarke criticism. Report by Aidan Smith. Chris Boyd has branded criticism of Scotland boss Steve Clarke as ludicrous. Clarke has come under fire from some supporters and pundits after the Scots were defeated 3-0 by the Republic of Ireland in the Nations League on Saturday. The shock loss comes after Scotland were defeated by Ukraine in the World Cup playoff semi-final at Hampden Park. Boyd understands the disappointment, and he believes the reaction goes to show how far the national team has come under the leadership of Clarke. He told Sky Sports News, "I have worked with Steve Clarke, and I know the way he goes about his business. You look at the Scotland squad, everyone is turning up. They're happy to be there, which has not been the case with previous managers and previous campaigns. Steve Clarke is not going anywhere. There is no doubt about that. There have been people out there calling for his head and that he should be removed if we don't win tonight. It is absolutely ludicrous. I don't care what anyone says. This is not just me sticking up for my ex-manager. This is just someone who has seen improvement in the Scottish national team. I have seen how together they are. I have seen how disappointed they have been, the players, management and staff, when they have lost games of football, and that has not been the case that often. I think we are on the right track. You have to remember we were at the Euros, and that was the first time we have been anywhere since the World Cup in 1998. Yes, there is disappointment at losing to Ukraine. But Ukraine are a good team and there is no shame in it. It wasn't to be, but for people to say that Steve Clarke should go if we don't win tonight is ludicrous. If there is someone better out there, tell me who it is, and I can put up a case for it. Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, June 14. Young goalkeeper reveals classy message from Joe Hart. Report by David Irwin. Joe Hart has earned a fan favourite status at Celtic for his performances on the pitch, but he's also been hailed for his actions and attitude off the park. The former England number 1 has excelled since joining Celtic last summer under Ange Postecoglou, and added some major experience to the Parkhead rearguard. But perhaps just as important has been Hart's influence in the dressing room, given his career to date. It is no surprise then to hear Hart has been hailed by a young keeper at one of his former clubs for offering his advice. Shrewsbury youngster Jayden Bevan revealed Hart contacted him to help him handle his breakthrough into the first-team environment. The 20-year-old recently signed a contract extension with the club and has featured on the bench for the first team. And after his mum contacted Hart, the keeper received a message and several videos packed with advice from the experienced stopper. Speaking to the Shropshire Star, Bevan revealed, "My mum texted Joe Hart, and he replied to her because they know each other. He messaged me and we just talked about it all. He gave me some advice and sent me videos of him talking. He was really helpful. He gave me advice on what to do and how to handle stuff. And it was just weird talking to someone of that level, as if you were mates. He was talking to me as if he actually cared, when he didn't have to talk to me at all, but he did. He's where I want to be, and doing what I want to be doing in life. So having a chat with him made that seem more reachable, and it made him seem more human. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, June 14. Kilmarnock sign Celtic youngster. Report by David Irvin. Kilmarnock have signed Celtic youngster Kerr McInroy on a 2-year deal. The Ayrshire club have secured the signature of the 21-year-old upon the expiry of his Parkhead contract. Derek McInnes moved to sign the midfielder after watching him in action for Ayr against Kilmarnock last term. And in a cheeky dig at their Ayrshire rivals, Kilmarnock announced the signing with the words, "Graduated to Ayrshire's number 1. McInroy will now be playing in the Scottish Premiership as Kilmarnock prepare for their return to the top flight after winning the Championship title. Speaking to the Kilmarnock website on his move, McInroy commented, "I am delighted to be here and buzzing to get the deal done in time for pre-season starting, so I am looking forward to getting going with the boys. I wanted to go to a club that wanted me and play at the highest level possible. I spoke to the manager and he really wanted to get me in, so that had a big helping hand in my decision. I look forward to bedding in as quickly as possible and seeing how I fit into the squad." McInnes said, "Kerr is a player we came up against last season for Ayr, and we feel he can give us that nice left-sided balance in the middle of the pitch. He's a good age to try and develop to get those improvements from him in our team. We have liked what we've seen from him, and it's a step up for him to play in the Premiership, so we are pleased to get him on board." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, June 14. Nick Rodgers says, "Shots fired as no end in sight to golf civil war." Well, you can say one thing about the LIV Golf Invitational. It generated quite a staggering amount of coverage. If you leafed through the newspaper, tuned into the radio, switched on the telly, or scrolled through social media last week, what did you see and hear? Yes, that's right. LIV Golf here, LIV Golf there, and LIV Golf bloomin' everywhere. In fact, the various media platforms were so chock-a-block with rampaging declarations and opinionated consternation about this Saudi-backed showpiece, there wasn't actually room for everybody to have their say on affairs. So folk ended up bursting into spontaneous outpourings of elaborate mime, expressive dance, and extravagant shadow puppetry just to get things off their chest. I'm making that last bit up, of course, but you get the general idea. It was a complete and utter frenzy. From squirming, surly, sheepish press conferences with players, which were as awkward as Prince Andrew suddenly appearing at the Order of the Garter procession, to cringe-inducing YouTube commentary, which featured Jerry Foltz shrieking the word money when Charles Schwartzel holed a winning putt worth some $4 million. It was quite the eyebrow-raising week for this rattled royal and ancient game. When it was all said and won at the Centurion Club, the established tours then had their moment of defiant triumphalism on Sunday, which left those in favour of the status quo positively giddy. Sweden's Lynn Grant struck a mighty blow for the good ladies, with a tremendous 9-shot win in an event of genuine innovation at the Scandinavian Mixed Tournament on the DP World Tour, before swashbuckling Rory McIlroy won a thrilling Canadian Open on the PGA Tour to leave all and sundry cooing like turtle doves on a first date. It was such a perfect day, you almost felt the whole thing had been rigged. The respective head honchos of the embattled main circuits could not have hoped for a better outcome. Schwartzel won an astronomical sum at a largely humdrum no-cut exhibition, and most observers shrugged their shoulders. Guaranteeing money in professional golf and removing the element of performance-related jeopardy diminishes its competitive validity. The wins by Grant and McIlroy genuinely mattered, however, and golf's integrity was preserved. In the euphoric aftermath of his 21st PGA Tour triumph, McIlroy was jubilant and cocked a sizable snook at LIV Golf CEO Greg Norman. "I had extra motivation with what's going on across the pond," said McIlroy. "That guy Norman that's spearheading that tour has 20 wins on the PGA Tour, and I was tied with him, and I wanted to get one ahead of him, and I did." It was another salvo fired in professional golf's ongoing civil war, and the battle looked set to rage for a while yet. At the LIV Golf Invitational prize-giving ceremony on Saturday, Norman once again declared, "Trust us, this is just the beginning." Underestimate his bullishness at your peril. Bryson DeChambeau and Patrick Reed are the latest names to sign up to his series, which has 3 stops coming up on American soil over the next couple of months. DeChambeau, like another major winning defector, Dustin Johnson, swore his allegiance to the PGA Tour not so long ago. "My word is my honour" doesn't mean much, though, when confronted with a humongous check. What was it Oscar Wilde said again? "I can resist everything except temptation." The United States Open at Brookline takes centre stage this week, but there will be no escaping LIV Golf and the general tumult, which continues to get increasingly polarised and politicised. On Sunday night, Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour Commissioner, made his first public appearance since issuing suspensions to the 17 PGA Tour members who played at the Centurion Club, and used the 9/11 atrocities to outline his resistance to the Saudi-led series. Given that a number of his PGA Tour players were granted releases to play in the Saudi International back in February, this emotive escalation of opposition was somewhat confusing. It underlined the mind-mangling complexities and sensitivities of the current situation. The LIV saga will no doubt rumble on too when the 150th Open takes place next month. There is a suggestion that the USGA and the R&A, in their role as custodians of the global game and respective organisers of these 2 major championships, should emerge from the safety of their bunkers and attempt to formulate some sort of ceasefire between the hostile parties. Finding a way for them to coexist, though, will just about require the combined expertise of every single winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. On this side of the Atlantic, meanwhile, the Saudi influence in golf will be on show again this week, back at the Centurion Club, when the $1 million Aramco Team Series takes place on the Ladies European Tour. The Saudis, through the Public Investment Fund and the Aramco, have a number of events totaling $7 million on a ladies' European tour, which simply cannot afford to turn down such a hefty investment. The source of these finances may still be questionable, but the money over morals debate is more muddied when we're discussing the need of the female golfers compared to the greed of their male counterparts. I'm sure golf was much simpler when it was sponsored by cigarettes and booze. "Can you get me a pint and some baccy, please?" asks Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, June 14. Partick Thistle sign Stephen Lawless. Report by Ewan Payton. Stephen Lawless has rejoined Partick Thistle. The Jags have snapped up the 31-year-old on a 2-year contract. He previously spent 6 seasons with the Championship club between 2012 and 2018. He was Dunfermline captain last year as they suffered relegation to League One. But he will remain in Scotland's second tier next term, with the Firhill club building their squad ahead of a title bid. Ian McCall said, "I am very happy to get the deal for Steve sorted. The wide areas were an area we felt we needed to add to ahead of the new season, and bringing him to the group gives us some real creativity in that area. He is a player who can set others up or be a goal threat himself, and I don't think you can have too many players like that. On top of that, he has been here before and knows exactly what it means to play for Partick Thistle and represent this club every week. He was part of a very successful Thistle team in the second tier previously, and hopefully he can be part of another one this season." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 15. Joe Aribo delivers ups and downs social media message. Report by David Irvin. Joe Aribo has finally finished his season after no less than 70 appearances for club and country. The Rangers midfielder endured a mammoth season both on the domestic, European and international stage. The 25-year-old Aribo ended his season as the most used player on the planet, with 57 appearances for Rangers and 13 for the Nigeria national team. The Ibrox favourite shares the accolade with Guatemala midfielder Steven Robles. Aribo played more minutes throughout the season, however. Finally, with time to reflect on a non-stop season, Aribo admitted it was an unforgettable year, full of ups and downs. Rangers lifted the Scottish Cup on the final day of the domestic calendar and made an impressive run to the Europa League final. But Aribo is ready to shift focus to next season. Posting on Twitter, he wrote, "Grateful to have played 70 games this season. I just want to thank God for getting me through it. A season full of ups and downs, but unforgettable memories were created. Can't wait to get going next season. Thank you to all the fans for your continued support." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, June 15. Scotland boss Clark hits out at bottle throwing. Report by Ewan Payton. Steve Clark has hit out at yobs who threw bottles onto the pitch during Scotland's victory over Armenia. Clark's men ran out comfortable 4-1 winners in the end, thanks to a Stuart Armstrong double, a John McGinn finish, and a Che Adams curled effort. It wasn't straightforward to begin with though, with the hosts taking an unexpected lead inside the opening 10 minutes. Armenia finished the game with just 9 men, however, in what ended up a bad-tempered affair. Arman Hovhannisyan was sent off just minutes before the interval, following 30 seconds of madness. The defender hacked down Nathan Patterson in a poor tackle before proceeding to headbutt McGinn, who was unhappy with the challenge. Just last week he appeared to lob a water bottle towards a linesman at Hampden. Minutes before the end of the match, Armenia's captain Kamo Hovhannisyan was also shown red. The skipper put in a shocking tackle on Lewis Ferguson, catching the Aberdeen star high on the shin with a late lunge. This was the moment things really started to boil over, as Anthony Ralston and Scott McTominay stood up for their teammate and took the Armenians to task. In and amongst the incidents, Clark claims he saw bottles thrown onto the pitch by fans. He was left furious with that situation. There also appeared to be some aggro at the end of the match, before Armenia's coaching staff cooled down the aggressors. Asked about the angry exchanges, Clark said, "I don't think there was too much. To be fair to their coaching staff, they got onto the pitch pretty quickly. They made sure that everyone was calm. There were some bad tackles towards the end of the game. Professional players are always going to react to that, but it was nothing. I am more concerned about the bottles that got thrown onto the pitch after the tackle on Lewis Ferguson." Clark was asked if it was the referee who was targeted by the missile and added, "I don't know, but I saw one bounce on the middle of the pitch. It was a hell of a throw." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 15. Steve Clark praises Scotland's realistic fans. Report by Ewan Payton. Steve Clark praised Scotland's realistic fans for backing them all the way through a tough period. The national team has suffered a mixed bag of results in the latest batch of international fixtures in June. Most disappointingly, Scotland lost out to Ukraine in the World Cup playoffs to blow the golden chance of a spot at Qatar 2022 later this year. Clark's men then put in a terrible performance against Ireland in Dublin as they were defeated 3-0. 2 wins against Armenia, including last night's 4-1 thumping, mean that Scotland's are in a strong position in their Nations League group. But that has not stopped a huge wave of criticism coming the team and Clark's way, in an apparent mood change towards the national team once more, following a spell of overwhelming positivity. Clark knows failure to qualify for the World Cup is not good enough, but he was grateful to a section of the supporters for sticking by his men. He said, "The realistic fans are fantastic. The people who come over here got nothing but praise for them. I'm glad they saw a good performance. But the realistic fans know what we're doing and what we're trying to do. The rest of it is out with our control. It was a difficult schedule for the players, but we have not made excuses. There is no excuse for the 2 games we lost. 2 wins against Armenia are not going to make this international camp a good camp, because it wasn't. We failed in our primary objective, which was to get to the World Cup. We failed in that. We had a really bad performance in Dublin, which put us on the back foot again. So it's nice to bounce back, but there's work to do. It was a game we wanted to win. It was a game we probably had to win, although not necessarily if you look at it mathematically. It puts us in a position where we can go to September and have a realistic chance of topping the group, and that's what we wanted. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 15. Inside City Football Group Chiefs ringing Postecoglou endorsement. Report by David Irvin. Ange Postecoglou walked into Celtic as a relatively unknown figure in Scotland. The experienced boss had already led the national side and tasted success in Japan and Australia. But in his big move to Europe, it is fair to say Postecoglou was lesser known. However, Celtic did their research before bringing the Greek-Australian boss to Parkhead, and so far it's majorly paid off. After a double winning season, lifting the Scottish Premiership and Premier Sports Cup trophies, City Football Group chief Brian Marwood has revealed his Ange endorsement. The managing director of CFG, City Football Group, worked alongside Postecoglou at Japan side Yokohama F. Marinos, so knew exactly what skills he brought to the table. And when quizzed by Celtic over the manager, Marwood was more than happy to put his name on the line, backing the boss to be a success in Scotland. Speaking to Keep Up, Marwood revealed CFG spoke to Celtic officials to offer an insight into Postecoglou's methods and give their thoughts on a move. Marwood explained, "We have a great relationship with Celtic. We were happy to endorse Ange when they spoke to us about potentially appointing him as head coach. Again, you look at the work he has done there after having a very difficult start. He went late in the summer. It was very difficult for him to bring players in, and he was very resolute in terms of his thinking, what his objectives were, and how he needed to create those and deliver them. You look at where the team got to at the end of the season, playing fantastic football and winning the title. In his first season, he has walked with 2 trophies. I am immensely proud of what he has done. I know his family have settled well. He has really enjoyed being in an institution that is Celtic Football Club, and really up for the challenge of taking that club on a journey that everybody can be proud of. The success he has had there doesn't surprise me, particularly after such a difficult start, but I think he will be working hard in the summer to make sure that they improve on what they have done this year." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, June 15. Martin Hannon says, "Phil Bennett was one of my rugby heroes. He'll live forever in my memory." One of the many troubles with getting older is that the rugby heroes you idolised when you were young and callow inevitably pass away, stirring memories of yesteryear when players really were more skillful and brute force did not win every game. Nostalgia is a blessing and a curse, a bittersweet affection for past things, and I felt full of it late on Sunday when news came through of the death of Phil Bennett, the very great Welsh fly-half, who was at the heart of the phenomenal Wales team of the 1970s. I was a huge fan of his as a teenager, and was privileged to interview him for the book Once Were Lions, which I wrote with my old mucker, Jeff Connor, in 2008 and 9. I have kept the sadly degraded recording of the interview and listened to his lilting voice again, reminding me of how humble he had been, how he was intent on praising those who had been great players around him, giving them the credit that was undoubtedly his. A genuine and sincere man, Bennett was everything that people say about him as a player. Possessed of blistering acceleration and the ability to swerve while running at full tilt, I suspect most people will remember that he could sell a dummy to the devil and sidestep entire nations, while his nose for a try was unmatched. Check out on YouTube his score in the British and Irish Lions' second test in 1974, when he scored a try that the entire crowd in Pretoria's Loftus Versfield Stadium loudly acclaimed. As well as kicking so many penalties and conversions, he scored what has been voted Wales' best ever try, and of course it was against Scotland at Murrayfield in 1977. Mind you, it would probably have been disallowed now, in these days of VAR, as Bennett's pass to David Butcher during the scoring move was definitely forward. Never mind, for as Bill McLaren said in commentary, the try was absolute magic, as was Bennett's extraordinary role in the greatest ever try scored by the Barbarians against the All Blacks in 1973. He was honest to a fault, telling me that he recalled the 1977 Lions tour as one of the worst experiences of his rugby career, and quietly confessed that he had not been up to the job of captaincy. He still ended the tour as the Lions' top test point scorer. Was he the best fly half ever? I don't think that can be decided easily, because people become GOATs at different eras. Bennett was an amateur, and I can only think that if he had played as a full-time professional, then he would have been even better. He captained his country and the British and Irish Lions, but won only 29 international caps. It would have been double or triple that number nowadays. There have been many attempts to name the top 10 number 10s of all time, and the English always choose Johnny Wilkinson, while the Irish currently claim Johnny Sexton as the best. Maybe Finn Russell will eventually be able to be chosen in the top 10, and I think most sensible judges would plump for Dan Carter or Grant Fox of the All Blacks, though I would make a case for Naz Botha of the Springboks, Argentina's Hugo Porta, and Australia's Michael Lynagh, Stephen Larkham, Mark Ella, or Tom Lawton from way back when. For the future, I will be watching Romain Tamac, who I expect to lead France to glory in the World Cup next year. The Welsh have 3 outstanding candidates in Bennett, Jonathan Davis, and the King himself, Barry John. It was John who kept Bennett out of the team at first, and it was only when John retired at the age of 27 that Phil Bennett came into his own, though John Bevan replaced him for several Five Nations matches in the mid-1970s. He bowed out after making a crucial contribution to Wales' third Grand Slam of the 1970s, scoring 2 tries in the Grand Slam clinching match against France. Incidentally, he finished that match as the then top scorer in Five Nations history. Bennett has long since passed into legend, though there was one story about him which actually was in fact. In his captain's pre-match talk before playing England, he told his colleagues, "Look what these bastards have done to Wales. They've taken our coal, our water, our steel. They buy our homes and live in them for a fortnight every year. What have they given us? Absolutely nothing. We've been exploited, raped, controlled and punished by the English, and that's who you are playing this afternoon." There was no recording made of that speech, which was put together by reporters from the accounts of the Welsh players after the game was won. But if I close my eyes, I can just about hear Bennett's distinctive tones exhorting his fellows. Heroes do live forever, but only in our memories, says Martin Hannon. Evening Times Sport, June 15. John McGinn says, take aim at players, not Steve Clarke. Report by Ewan Payton. John McGinn insists Scotland's players should be the only people being criticised for the country's poor recent form. Steve Clarke has come under fire from a large section of the nation's support following the end of another World Cup dream at the hands of Ukraine. The former Kilmarnock manager was also heavily criticised for his team selection and tactics in Saturday's 3-0 defeat to Ireland. But McGinn stood up for his national team gaffer following Scotland's second victory against Armenia in the Nations League in a week. He told BBC Sport, I don't notice, but the team were never in any doubt about what the manager has achieved. If there was any noise about that, then it was wrong. The criticism should have come towards us. I didn't see any, but the criticism should have been towards us as players. It's been a disappointing camp for us overall. One we'll need to reassess and come back in September stronger and play better to our capabilities. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 15. Serie A side target Rangers defender. Report by David Irvin. Trabzonspor are preparing a transfer swoop for Rangers fullback Borna Barisic, but could face competition from Italy, according to reports. It is claimed the Turkish side are keen on a summer move for the Croatian defender. However, the Daily Record now report an unnamed Serie A side have joined the chase to sign Barisic. The fullback is under contract at Ibrox until 2024, but it's reported that Trabzonspor boss Abdullah Abche is keen to address a problem area in his side. The Turkish side have also been credited with an interest in AC Milan defender Fode Ballo-Touré, but it's claimed a bid for Barisic could be with Ibrox chiefs soon. It comes after Celtic ace Josip Juranovic deputised for injured Barisic on international duty. And according to Sportske Novosti, Croatian boss Zlatko Dalic is not concerned by Barisic injury woes. He said, we don't care anymore about injuries at left back. Sousa and Barisic are constantly injured, but I will not worry much about that anymore. We have Juranovic, we have a solution. Both stoppers and Josip Stanisic played very well against France, but not only them, but also Juranovic at left back. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, June 16. Champions League return will re-energise Callum McGregor. Report by Matthew Lindsay. The demands which have been placed on Celtic and Scotland midfielder Callum McGregor by both his club and country in the last few years have led to concerns being expressed about the long-term impact on both his physical and mental well-being. Yet McGregor has still had limited downtime since lifting the Cinch Premiership trophy aloft at a Parkhead following a final league game against Motherwell last month. He was the only outfield player in the national squad to feature in every minute of all 4 fixtures during the international break that ended with an emphatic 4-1 win over Armenia in a Nations League match on Tuesday evening. The 29-year-old's outing in midweek was his 63rd competitive appearance of the 2021-22 campaign. Can the Scot, who was one of 15 players named in a FIFA Pro report into the dangers of match congestion and travel burden last month, continue to operate at such a high level on a weekly basis going forward without suffering from a serious injury or even burnout? Tom Boyd, the former Scotland and Scotland defender, believes McGregor will benefit greatly from the extended break that he will, due to the Premiership winners going straight into the Champions League group stages next term, get this summer. But Boyd is convinced that his countrymen and all of his Parkhead teammates will return to pre-season training at Lennoxtown next month, fully refreshed and eager to start playing again, regardless of how long they get to unwind. Speaking at Kelvin Grove Park, as he handed over a £7,000 cheque from the Celtic Foundation to the taxi outing to Troon for Children, he predicted that they will be energised by the prospect of featuring in Europe's premier club competition against the cream of the continent. He said, "I have been there myself, not as much as Callum just now, right enough, but a few years ago you literally got 1 week's rest before you started again. But these guys are professional, and they would rather be in there playing football than on holiday with the wife somewhere. No, let's go and start pre-season again. Do you want time off to recharge your batteries?" Speaking from personal experience, no. I know in modern football, with some people playing an exceptional number of games and not getting any rest, they need a couple of weeks break. But if there is a first team game played, you know you would want to play in it. I know they have got this squad rotation now, and you need that with the intensity. The game has slightly changed with the high pressing, the really high pressing that has come into it now. Teams in years gone by didn't do that. But you would rather play every day of the week. You would rather play than train. So yes, just bring it on. I am sure the players will be buzzing and really looking forward to the start of the season. There are a lot of things to happen before the Champions League, but everybody is really looking forward to it. It is the first time in a while. Boyd, who attends Celtic matches home and away as a supporter these days, is certainly excited at the prospect of his old club squaring up to the likes of Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid for the first time in 5 years. The former left-back skippered his boyhood heroes to their first domestic treble in 32 years back in 2001, and then helped them to qualify for the Champions League for the first time the next term with a memorable aggregate victory over Dutch giants Ajax in qualifying. But he missed out on the matches against Juventus, Porto and Rosenborg. He said, "I got us there, but I didn't manage to play in the group stages. There were a couple of decent players in my way, Bobo Balde, Jus Valgaeren and Johan Malby, amongst others. But I managed to get us there, and that was a fantastic experience." Boyd, who is now a Celtic ambassador, and works as a co-commentator for Celtic TV, has sampled the atmosphere on big Champions League nights at Parkhead on numerous occasions in the past, and is looking forward to Ange Postecoglou's side being involved in the competition once again. He said, "We have had some absolutely wonderful times in the Champions League, and it is great to be there. Some of the best players in the world have said that playing at Celtic Park is their best experience ever. So we want to see that back again. We want to see us being able to compete in the Champions League. Yes, let's bring it on." There is, though, a downside to Celtic going straight into the group stages for lifelong supporter Boyd. He said, "Now that I'm not playing, and I don't have to worry about getting 2 weeks holiday, I want Celtic to play in the qualifiers so that I can see them play earlier. It's not great for the nerves, but they're great. But now we're there, and we're guaranteed Champions League football. Celtic Park is a stage that is perfect for European football, for Champions League nights, and we want to see some great nights once again. I am buzzing about that." Tom Boyd is convinced that Callum McGregor and all of his Celtic teammates will be exactly the same. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, June 16. Graham Alexander hints at 2 or 3 Motherwell signings. Report by Aidan Smith. Graham Alexander has insisted that Motherwell will look to complete transfer business early this summer, ahead of the Europa Conference League campaign in July. The Steelmen were rewarded with a European spot after finishing 5th in the Scottish Premiership last term, and in yesterday's draw they were paired with the winners of the first round qualifying tie between Bala Town and Sligo Rovers. Motherwell will compete in European competition for the first time in 2 years, and Alexander is confident that his squad will be raring to go come July 21. The Fir Park boss has already added Blair Spittle to his ranks, and he has now revealed that the club are in talks with at least 3 other players ahead of returning to pre-season on July 3. Alexander explained, "Last year was quite an overhaul, and we worked extremely hard and were very patient in our work. You can sign enough players within 2 days of the season finishing if you wanted to, but it's about getting the right ones, who will improve what we already have to take us forward. So it narrows the group of players down that you can sign, and obviously we have our restrictions with our budget. So there is a small group of players we feel we can achievably get who can improve us. Blair Spittle was a great start for the summer. He had an excellent season for Ross County and was really eager to join us, which was great to see. He will be a great player for us, and there are 2 or 3 we are talking to at the moment and have been for maybe a week or so. Sometimes you think you're close, and it goes on for another week. Sometimes you think it's miles away, and then it's ready to be done in an hour. It's really hard to gauge sometimes, but we have had some really good conversations with a couple of players. If we can get them, I think they will improve the group, but we are not looking to have a big overhaul. We have the basis of a really good squad. I think the players proved that last season, but it's always important to add to that with fresh blood and new faces. So we are working hard to do that, and ideally, if we can get them in before pre-season, that is really important. Last season we started pre-season with 8 or 9 contracted players, It was really difficult. Hopefully we won't have to go through that again this season. Alexander was hoping for an exotic trip away for his side in European qualifying, but the close-to-home draw will allow for supporters to travel in big numbers to either Wales or Ireland. The first leg of the clash will take place in North Lanarkshire on July 21, before the return leg a week later on July 28. Alexander continued, "I said last season I was looking forward to a plane journey somewhere, but it doesn't seem to be that way. More like a ferry for this one, but it'll be a game against one of two competitive teams. We had 4 players still playing yesterday due to the internationals, so they'll start back later, and then the games will come thick and fast. So maybe the lack of travelling and the fact we're at home in the first leg will help, even though we're going to Austria for a training camp anyway. The club will look after us. We have good professionals, and we'll be ready to go. It's a good draw for the fans. It makes it achievable to get good numbers. Whoever we would have been playing, I know there is a hardcore support who will follow us everywhere. The only problem is that we don't know who we are playing until the week before. It will be lastminute.com trying to organise everything, but it is achievable to get to Wales and Ireland for fans, and that will be great. You see the Tartan Army following Scotland, and it's more than a game, it's an experience. Hopefully our supporters will enjoy it." Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, June 16. Nick Roger points out Rebels mixing it with the Remainers adds extra spice to United States Open Boston Tea Party. It is perhaps fitting that at a time when the upper echelons of men's professional golf is embroiled in some kind of civil war, the United States Open is taking place at Brookline. This was the Boston venue, after all, where the 1999 Ryder Cup was held. And what happened during that particular encounter? Yes, that's right. There was an outbreak of hostilities so fearsome you would not be surprised if there were bits still of shrapnel embedded in the face of the bunkers. The infamous Battle of Brookline, during which the Team USA donned one of the most hideously designed polo shirts in the history of sporting apparel, erupted in a riot of rancour and recrimination. The berserk scenes of premature American celebration on the 17th green, when just about the entire population of Massachusetts invaded the putting service after Justin Leonard's outrageous birthday, remain a centerpiece in golf's Hall of Infamy. Here, in 2022, as the United States Open returns to Brookline for the first time since 1988, the latest battle involves the mighty power struggle between the established tours and the heavily armed belligerent that is the Saudi-backed LIV Golf Series. But you all sit to the back teeth of hearing about that, aren't you? Brooks Koepka, the two-time United States Open, probably spoke for a lot of the scunnered masses the other day when asked about the ongoing circus which is currently consuming the royal and ancient game. Groaned Koepka while rolling his eyes in so much exasperation they just about ended up peering back into his own skull. I'm tired of the conversations. I'm tired of all this stuff. You're all throwing a black cloud over the United States Open. Such sympathy for the organisers of this week's showpiece, the USGA, remains something of a remarkable development. In the build-up to their flagship event, the USGA top brass are usually being routinely criticised for their traditionally brutal course setup. Not this week though. The LIV Golf Palaver has even plunged that annual debating point into the heavy rough of irrelevance. As for the absence of Tiger Woods, well, most folk have probably forgotten that Woods is actually absent. These are strange times indeed, as we get set for this latest Boston Tea Party. A major championship week is always intriguing. The blend of loyal tour remainers and LIV golf rebels in the field will add additional spice to proceedings in a neck of the woods that has some of the most boisterous crowds in the USA. Brace yourself for some lively baiting from the hordes in the Brookline Bear Pit. If last weekend's Canadian Open, won in thrilling fashion by Rory McIlroy in front of a delirious throng, was a timely shot in the arm for the status quo, then the third men's major of the campaign should give it a booster jag. If history teaches us anything, then we could be in for the long haul come Sunday night. The United States Open has been held at Brookline 3 times, in 1913, 1963, and 1988, and on each occasion a play-off has been required to determine the champion. McIlroy, seeking a second United States Open title, a fifth major, and a first since 2014, will blast off in buoyant mood, while the world number one Scotty Scheffler has landed in town, aiming to become just the sixth player to win the Masters and United States Open in the same season. Six-time United States Open runner-up Phil Mickelson, meanwhile, has arrived from his re-emergence at the LIV golf event last week, still looking as sheepish as an entire series of one man and his dog. It was Jon Rahm who was the top dog at Torrey Pines last year, with a birdie finish, which brought him his first major crown. The Spaniard knows what it takes to get the job done. It's a United States Open, you need everything, said Rahm, who was the leading amateur in the 2016 US Open and tied third in 2019. You need to drive well, hit your irons well, chip well and putt well, and be mentally sane for 4 days, he said. Keeping the heat while others are losing theirs can bring hefty rewards in the fraught, flummoxing arena of a United States Open. At a tumultuous time for the game, when many think professional golf is taking leave of its senses, there will be plenty to keep the mind occupied this week, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, June 16. Rangers will profit from new SPFL cinch deal, despite brand advertising exclusion. Report by Aidan Smith. Rangers will still profit from the new SPFL cinch deal, despite being excluded from a revised title sponsorship contract. The Light Blues have been in dispute with the league over the past year, since the car retail company began a 5-year deal as the main backer of Scotland's top 4 divisions last June. Rangers have refused to showcase the sponsor's logo within their stadium or on their strips, as they claimed it conflicted with a commercial agreement they already had in place with Chairman Douglas Park's firm, Parks of Hamilton. The SPFL have now attempted to dilute the saga by agreeing a fresh deal with Cinch, effective immediately, in which Rangers are no longer required to participate by providing the sponsorship inventory that they have so far not provided. The league's governing body say the new agreement protects Cinch's pivotal investment into Scottish football, and that the overall income to Scottish football is expected to remain materially unchanged over the original 5-year term of the sponsorship. The Ibrox club, however, believe the updating of the contract represents an admission on the part of the SPFL that it was wrong to stand against Rangers over the issue. SPFL Chief Executive Neil Doncaster welcomed the tweak to the deal, and he said, "It is extremely good news that we have been able to work with our partners at Cinch to develop an updated sponsorship package which delivers the same level of financial support to Scottish football, whilst providing additional SPFL media assets to Cinch to compensate for the loss of Rangers-related rights. It is testament to the strength of our relationship with Cinch and the high value they place on it that they have agreed to move forward with us on this basis. This deal gives us further confidence that we will exceed our budget and deliver fees to clubs of more than £27.5 million for season 2021-22. Murdoch McLennan, chairman of the SPFL, added, "This is a great outcome for the entire game in Scotland. Our friends at Cinch have been brilliant to deal with throughout the whole process. There is so much to celebrate in this SPFL as Cinch and our clubs look forward with excitement to the launch of the 2022-23 fixture list this Friday." A spokesman for Cinch said, "We welcome the evolution of our agreement with the SPFL and are proud of our continued investment into Scottish football across all 4 Cinch SPFL leagues. We are very much looking forward to next season and to continuing the stellar growth of our business in Scotland." A spokesperson for Rangers responded, "This is a full vindication of our stance throughout the past season and further highlights wide-ranging concerns regarding the corporate governance of the SPFL." Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, June 16. St Johnstone set to sign Andy Considine from Aberdeen. Report by Aidan Smith. St Johnstone are set to complete the signing of Aberdeen legend Andy Considine after his departure from Pittodrie this summer. The 35-year-old exited the Dons at the end of the season, following an 18-year stint with the club. Considine had originally been offered a 1-year deal with a pathway into coaching in Aberdeen's youth academy, but after further discussions with manager Jim Goodwin, he bid farewell to the Granite City outfit. Now St Johnstone boss Callum Davison has snapped up Considine to add an experienced head to his youthful defensive ranks. The Scotland international also had options of moving abroad with clubs in Australia interested, but instead he has opted to stay in the Scottish Premiership. Considine made 571 appearances during his time at Aberdeen after coming through the youth setup, and he quickly became a huge fans' favourite. The centre-back's arrival in Perth could indicate that Jamie McCart's time at McDermott Park is up after being offered a new deal at the end of the campaign. The double cup winner, along with Zander Clark and Callum Hendry, have all been offered new contracts, but there is yet to be any further movements on agreements. Saints will return to pre-season training on June 22, ahead of a busy schedule of League Cup group stage fixtures. Speaking last week on St Johnstone's transfer business, Boss Davidson said, "It is very important we get our recruitment right this summer. We are looking for quality to bring in to make sure we have a better season next year. Bringing in that quality, players who are ready to go straight into the team, is what we're looking for. Those a few weeks after the season ends are always the same. It is a frustrating time for a manager because you want to get cracking and get everyone signed up. But players have had a long, hard season and are off on holiday with their families and thinking about their options, so it is difficult to get answers." Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, June 16. Celtic legend on why Carter Vickers snubbed the Premier League. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Tom Boyd believes Cameron Carter-Vickers chose to sign a permanent deal with Celtic instead of a move to a Premier League club in England, so he could sample Champions League nights at Parkhead next season. Ange Postecoglou secured his first major acquisition of the summer last Friday, when Carter-Vickers put pen to paper on a 4-year deal with the newly crowned Scottish champions. The United States international, who is hoping to feature for his country in the World Cup finals in Qatar in November, was outstanding during a loan spell in Scotland last term. The 24-year-old featured in 45 games in all competitions, helped Celtic to complete a Premier Sports Cup and Cinch Premiership double, and became a firm fans' favourite. Carter-Vickers' success in this country generated interest in the Spurs centre-half from clubs down south, but he opted to commit his long-term future to Celtic. Former Parkhead captain Boyd feels the chance to play in Europe's premier club competition in the 2022-23 campaign persuaded the defender to return to his old club. Said Boyd, "Everyone could see the impact that Carter-Vickers made last season. Sometimes we miss out on players like that because they have been playing so well. It is great credit to everyone at the club, the board and whoever who sanctioned the move. We'd seen there was a player there, and the impact he had on loan which worked as it allowed us to see him as a player. He just got stronger and stronger, and by the end was competing for the Player of the Year. You do not want to lose someone like that, and we are extremely happy everyone on the board and the management managed to get it done to continue the squad depth we have got at the moment." Speaking as he presented a cheque for £7,000 from the Celtic Foundation to the taxi outing to Troon, Boyd added, "I have no doubt his experience within the club, whether it is being playing in front of the fans or being told about the atmosphere, swayed him. He's heard it from the best players in the world, saying what a magnificent atmosphere the Champions League nights have, but he sees it every week as well. Whether it be home or away, he sees that, and like anyone, you would want more of it. Thankfully, Cameron will be with us for a few years, and can experience some more great nights. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, June 20th. Celtic transfer target sent off for headbutt. Report by Ewan Payton. It appears Alexandro Bernabei has been gearing himself up for the rough and tumble of Scottish football as a move to Celtic edges closer. The Lanark defender was sent off last night for a headbutt during his side's 1-0 win over Cologne. The 21-year-old left-back is said to be on the verge of a transfer to Celtic, and it has been reported over the past week that Lanark want £4 million for the defensive talent. Some reports say that the deal will go through, stating that it's a matter of when and not if. So if Sunday's game was to be his last appearance for Lanark, Bernabeu ended his time at the club with a sending off. He reacted badly to Santiago Pierotti with just over 20 minutes left on the clock. As the opponents exchanged words, Barnaby then pushed his head into the face of Pierotti as the Cologne player hit the deck. The referee quickly flashed the red card as Barnaby's team in Argentine football potentially came to an end on a sour note. Postecoglou is keen on adding a new left-back for the club's Champions League push and to provide competition for Greg Taylor. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 20. Joe Hart reveals Celtic standards conversation with Tom Rogic. Report by Aidan Smith. Joe Hart has revealed how a Celtic standards chat with club hero Tom Rogic set him up to be an instant success at Parkhead. The experienced goalkeeper arrived in Glasgow last summer and quickly cemented his spot as the club's new number one. After having a chat with Rogic, who departed the club this summer during a season full of pressure, Hart quickly understood that he and his teammates could not rest on their laurels at any point. And after winning both the Scottish Premiership and League Cup last term, the former Manchester City man is now desperate for more silverware. He explained, "The actual atmosphere is exciting and an amazing thing to be part of. But for me personally, being a family man, I've loved being able to bring my family, friends and children to a club that values things like that. You see people who have been supportive for years and others that will be fans for years after, and those are the things that I really enjoy about the club. The atmosphere and support are fantastic. We feel it everywhere we go. But the values of the club are something that hits home for me and something I'm proud to be part of. I've loved every moment, but I've always loved playing football, fighting for things and being at the top. I love the pressure it brings, cup finals, semi-finals, being close to the supporters, and all that happens here. All the things I love about football is what this football club is. Last season sounded tough, but you can't forget the previous 9 successful seasons this club had. Tom Rogic said to me during the season that we won't be defined by what happened last season. We are bigger than that, and we have an opportunity to do what we can while we are here borrowing the shirts. Time moves on quickly, so you have to take every opportunity as it comes. Report by Aidan Smith. Evening Times Sport, June 20. Kyogo left stunned after being put in headlock by Neymar. Report by Mark Walker. Celtic star Kyogo Furuhashi has revealed he was left stunned after Brazilian legend Neymar put him in a headlock in their recent friendly. Furuhashi was playing for Japan in the glamour friendly at the start of the month against the star-studded Brazilians, but they fell to a 1-0 defeat after PSG star Neymar converted a late penalty. But the Parkhead favourite admits he was left stunned by the dirty tricks employed by the former Barcelona ace when Furuhashi decided to take it upon himself to mark him at a set-piece. He said, "Originally, I was not supposed to be marking him at a corner, but there was an extra player, and so I went to mark him instead. I had to get close to him, but I was completely shocked when he put me in a headlock. I couldn't move. I was completely stuck. He did it in a way so the referee couldn't see it. I actually laughed about it later. Brazil were very, very good. Casemiro in particular was amazing. He was ridiculous, in fact, in terms of positioning, passing, and his defensive play. It was actually quite crushing to be on the pitch with someone as good as him." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, June 20. Alfred Morelos will be key for Rangers' success, insists Chris Burke. Report by Ian Collin. Chris Burke insists hanging on to Alfredo Morelos could be key to success for Rangers this season. The Colombian has been linked with a big money move to Spanish side Seville as he approaches the final year of his current deal at Ibrox. The Light Blues are said to be in contract talks with the 25-year-old, who scored 18 times in 42 appearances last season, before injury curtailed his campaign and ruled him out of the Europa League final. Burke reckons the prolific marksman will be tough to replace if he does move on, and the former Rangers winger hopes his old club are not left seeking a new striker and a goalkeeper as question marks remain over Alan McGregor's future. He said, "Obviously, every single window there's speculation on Alfredo Morelos. He's in the last year of his contract, and do they sell him now, or do they keep him? He scored 18 goals in total last season, and he is an important figure for this Rangers side. It is very difficult to find a striker that always scores goals. I think that's going to be an important factor. If Morelos goes, he'll be very difficult to replace. And also, you've got the likes of Alan McGregor, who has had a terrific second spell. Does he retire, or does he move on? For me, I would love to see him continue his journey at Rangers. Rangers, if you look at it, could be looking for a new number 9 and a goalkeeper." Report by Ian Collin. Evening Times Sport, June 20. SPFL chairman branded useless by Partick Thistle boss. Report by Ewan Payton. SPFL chairman Murdoch McLennan has been branded bloody useless by Partick Thistle manager Ian McCall. The Jags boss appeared on BBC's Off the Ball this weekend as a guest on Tam Cowan and Stuart Cosgrove's show. Cowan, Cosgrove and McCall were discussing the season just past for the Jags. McCall referenced the state of the surface at Firhill as a result of ground sharing with Queen's Park as a factor in Thistle's fall away in the title race in the final 9 matches. Cowan then rightly pointed out that having just come up from League One, a 4th place finish was a good season for the Glasgow side. The Motherwell Daft radio host then segued into a question about SPFL Chief Executive Neil Doncaster, asking McCall if he had much sympathy for the league chief after a tough week relating to the Rangers' Singe deal dispute. McCall replied, "Not particularly," playing along with the game show host. McCall took a dig at the SPFL's chairman, Murdoch McLennan, and he continued, "I've actually written down the chairman for the Blood 11. It's Murdoch McLennan, because he's bloody useless. I don't know what he does. I have no idea." McCall discussed transfers and the importance of managing his budget at this time of year ahead of the new campaign, and he revealed that a further 3 players are all about being signed. He said, "You have a budget to work from. I have identified quite a lot of players. We have got 2 or 3 that are done, but haven't been signed yet." It's a lot to do with the budget. Everybody seems to have been talking about budgets more and more these days. But you saw Arbroath last year, whose budget is not as small as they say. It's not all about budgets, but you do have to work to it. When I sign a player, I like to be almost certain. If you get 6 out of 10 right, then you're doing well. Big David Moyes said that to me once. For me, after all of these years, that's still the key part of the job. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, June 20. Starfelt says that being pushed to the edge was key to his improvement. Report by Graham McGarry. Being a centre-back at Celtic may once have been looked upon as something of a cushy number. Most weeks domestically, after all, you are playing for a team that keeps the ball at the other end of the pitch for the majority of the game. There is no such thing as a comfort zone at the club anymore though, with defenders expected to contribute in possession just as much as their attacking counterparts, and the centre-halves tasked with being the starting point for the attack under Ange Postecoglou's system. For a time in his early career at Celtic, it seemed as though Carl Starfelt was struggling to adjust to the expectations that were now being placed upon him, both in terms of what he was required to bring to the team in a footballing sense, and by his own admission, what was required mentally to cope with the demands of winning week in, week out. In his first season at the club, he has been pushed to places as a player that he has never gone before, but the end result has been huge growth as both a professional and as a person, as his partnership with Cameron Carter-Vickers has flourished to the extent that £7 million Christopher Julian has barely had a sniff of first-team action since his return from long-term injury. Postecoglou placed his faith in the defender, and he was rewarded handsomely as the Swede became an integral part of his title-winning side, just as Starfelt has been rewarded by becoming a much more accomplished all-round player. Starfelt told the Celtic View, "I have developed a lot, especially on the ball. You also need another mentality here because there's a need to win every game. Where I played before, it's different, because you wanted the players to feel secure on the pitch, and you want them to do the things they are good at and feel safe on the pitch. Here, you are put on the edge all of the time, and you need to have the bravery to still do these things, knowing that if you miss a pass or have a bad defensive action, you have no one to cover up for you." That mentality has changed a lot for me, and it's why I think you develop a lot more when you are put on the edge, not only in games but in training as well. The manager has been really good, and he's the one that wants us to play this type of way and take risks. He's also the one who backs his players if they make a mistake on the pitch, and he's been very clear about the fact that we don't have to worry about mistakes, and to have a positive mindset and play our game and follow the match plan. A major part of Celtic's success under Postecoglou thus far has undoubtedly been the manager's ability to get not only his players but the entire club and the fan base to buy into him and the direction that he has set Celtic on. For Starfelt, that unity of purpose was undoubtedly a key factor in their title triumph, and he is hoping to repay the unwavering support of the fans, which was evident even in the difficult early days of Postecoglou's reign, with more trophies next term. And he said, "It's been a great season, and I think all the players really enjoy playing this type of football under a manager who is pushing us to become better versions of ourselves every day. It is very special that we have managed to come through everything, push ourselves forward as a team, and end the season with the league title. To do it for the fans, who have had our back all year and have been unbelievable in home and away games. It's almost been a full house in every game. It's not just in this city, they are buzzing about football, and it's so big here, so to get the trophy for them is amazing." Evening Times, June 20. Morelos transfer latest. Report by Aidan Smith. Reports in Turkey say Rangers are in talks with Turkish outfit Besiktas over a deal for striker Alfredo Morelos. Fanatic suggest that the Super League outfit will hold talks with the Colombian this week over a possible transfer deal. Morelos is out of contract in 2023, and it remains to be seen whether he will make a big money move. The Rangers striker has never shied away from discussing a big money move away from Ibrox, and he has revealed that he would like to test himself in an elite European league. Despite this, he has also hailed the Ibrox fans for their support during his time at the club. He explained to a Colombian radio station, "Rangers fans are loyal fans who support us everywhere we play. That feeling of knowing fans travel to other countries far away from Glasgow is wonderful. I feel that unconditional support. They love me a lot. They cheer my name at every game, in every stadium. As a player, this motivates me to keep working, keep playing well, and to want to stay playing there for years to come." Last week we told how Morelos was linked with Spanish outfit Seville. The La Liga giants are priced at 3-1 to sign the Ibrox frontman, with Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa second best at 6-1. Crystal Palace 7-1 and Newcastle 8-1 are also quoted, with Leicester, the current outsiders, at 10-1. Report by Aidan Smith.
And that was this week's Glasgow Times Sport podcast, normally recorded in our studio at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre, currently recorded from our volunteers' homes with the publisher's kind permission. Thanks for listening.